It would be so easy if sound could just set our stuff up, record our lines, and leave. But then, of course, we'd have a very, very short day. And that doesn't happen in the world of moving pictures, motion pictures, television, whatever you want to call it, because we have to have a camera that gets the images for everybody in a motion picture. You probably know this already. So what in the world am I going to be talking about in this? As a boom operator, you're responsible for knowing what the picture is. And how are you going to know this? It's very simple, actually. You have to listen. At the very beginning of the rehearsal, you're going to start watching the scene. You're going to start to see the DP and maybe the director, who might have been part of a private rehearsal, standing on the side. The DP is most likely doing one of these numbers, or maybe like this, trying to figure out the right angle, or they'll stand in the position where they think the camera is going to be coming from first or looking at first. You might have camera operators in the room also, and they might be perching themselves in certain places where they can watch the scene to try to figure out if this is the right angle. And you might see them kind of standing strategically at places around the room for this purpose. And that's cool because you can see them. Once you start to learn your operators, you're able to see their habits and what they do and how they do it. The DP, though, is going to talk to the director and kind of give you an over idea of what this scene's going to look like. And they're going to say, okay, so the two people sitting at the dining room table, I don't need a shot of the waiter who comes by. There's no lines. He's a background guy. He doesn't get any coverage. It's all about this couple. So we're just going to stay here. We're going to drop back into a wide from over there at the bar. And then we're going to be good. We're going to be out of the scene. Okay, so if it's that easy, no, because we actually do owe an insert. So we're going to get an insert from his perspective, looking down. And you got to pay attention to this stuff because listening is going to tell you what's necessary and what's going to be done. From there, after they kind of figure out what the general overview is, which, by the way, the first AD should be listening to this as well. So if you happen to miss something because you're helping grab a lav or you're helping to turn a refrigerator or something back on, you're picking up a plant, if you miss something like that, you can't ask the first AD, provided your first AD is not one of the rare first ADs that is completely clueless about what happens on set, in which case you probably have a good relationship with the DP. But the DP will talk to the director and they'll figure out what the shots and how the scene is going to go. And if you listen to the scene, it's going to pretty much tell you how it's going to go. Not always, though. On the bigger movies where there's going to be like 20 setups, they can't run through them all. And you kind of get an idea on whatever budget show you're working on and whatever level of show or how the show is. Over the course of time, you'll figure out how they do coverage. Episodic television, where you shoot 6 to 8 scenes a day, or 6 to 8 pages a day, they could keep it more simple. And it's just basic coverage. On a feature, they have more time. So you may spend only one day on one scene as opposed to 4 scenes, and they'll spend more time really nailing it and getting it out there. On television, you also, I won't get into the differences between film and television because, first of all, they're very, very similar. But second of all, it's different on different budgets, and every show is different, so I won't even get into that. Let me get back to this, though. The DP, after they talk to the director, the next flow of where they go next is they may talk to the key grip and the gaffer to get lighting going, but they will definitely talk to their A camera operator first. Now, the other operators may be standing by, but the A camera operator is the main one because they are responsible for what happens as the head operator, basically. And as a general rule, but not always, the A camera operator is also going to be the wide shot. The reason why is because the A camera operator is responsible for what happens in the frame. As the wide shot person, if they're on the wide shot, they're responsible for everything that happens in the frame. And if that's the case, and the B camera and C camera people go in for tights, they don't necessarily need to worry about anything within their shot because they're just concentrating on a tight shot, and the A camera operator is managing all that. The A camera operator, as a wider shot, is going to have maximum time to set everything up, and you need that on a wide shot because it's not as simple as just saying, all right, here's the frame right here. Just make sure that the wardrobe is good from here up, the makeup is good, hair is good. Great, we're good. Just double check that background right there. On a wide shot, you have to worry about picking up the marks. How are people walking in there? Does all the action of all the background people and everything make sense? Does the overall energy feel right for the scene? Oh, a background person doesn't need to cross at that moment because it's distracting. That light back there flickering, or that one light back there flickering, is annoying. We got to fix that. They're responsible for figuring all this stuff out and watching all of this. If a cable is going through the background and it's a crew cable, they're going to say, remove that thing. If it's a sound-related thing, anything sound-related, doesn't matter what the cable is, cannot be seen on camera. However, if it's an antenna for picture, oh, it could be right back there. No one will see it. It's amazing how if you have a 600 card, which is the camera union local that we have here in America, if you have a 600 card, you naturally have a cloaking device. That means that certain things can't show up on camera. If it's a sound-related thing, even if you are hiding behind a camera person, you're going to be visible. And that has happened before. I have literally been standing behind a camera person and they tell me they see me. And I say, how do you see me? This entire room is black. I'm wearing black. I'm standing behind a camera operator wearing white, and he's looking directly into that window. How do you see me and not you? I don't know. All I'm telling you is I see you, you have to move. I digress. So by listening to the conversation between the DP and the camera operator, you're going to figure out what their shots entail. Now, if that means putting down dance floor for the dolly to be pushed across and moving all over the place, you know right there that they're going to be doing some sort of complex in and out moving that a track is not going to be able to handle. And if that's the case, and you have not heard anything about how they're covering the scene, start to watch for what happens. If you see grips starting to gravitate towards set carrying things like big, huge pieces of wood, you know it's probably going to be dance floor. If you start to see them coming to set with pieces of track, you know it's probably going to be on track. If there's a lot of action and moving and actors moving over the place and you don't see any of this stuff, but the camera people are not necessarily on set as much, or the first and second ACs, I should say, they're most likely, if the A camera or whoever the Steadicam, operator is, which could be the A, could be B, it doesn't really matter. Whoever that Steadicam operator is, they could be starting to set up Steadicam, and their assistants may not be on set. If it happens to be the A camera operator who's also your steady, and the person that's putting down the marks is the B camera second, and you know that the A camera second is usually always the person doing it, then chances are they're setting up for steady. I mean, you have to double check all this stuff because there's no blanket rule that says this is what happens and this is how it happens. But that is something to keep in mind. Now, when the camera is when they're starting to set up the movements and stuff like that, you have to know what this camera is. And not just in physical space, how it's moving around. You have to know what is in frame. Because if you don't know how your sound is supposed to sound. Your sound has to match picture. If it's a wide shot, it needs to sound like a wide shot. Now, this, of course, could be a call that is made by your sound mixer to be something different. Now, it used to be that when you had one camera, you would stay back and just put the microphone out there and just point as a perspective from the camera. And as long as the camera saw everything in the room, it could sound distant off that one mic because it's sounding like it looks. But depending on the sound mixer and what they're trying to accomplish in their tracks, they could say, I want to have all the sound very present and close, so we constantly hear them very close. Especially, you will hear this out of a sound mixer if there is wides and tights going on. Because if you have a shot like this, and you also have a wide shot there, the wide shot, if they're watching that, and it sounds like this shot here, close up and present, because of a plant or a boom a plant or a lav mic that they're wearing, that's cool. If it sounds like the camera's at the other side of the room and the shot's like this, there's going to be a problem because it doesn't sound like it looks. Post can always take the wide shot, match in there the boom, and use that. But more than likely what they're going to do is they're going to start using the sound that cuts out of this wide shot to the close-up, and they're going to use that first because in a wide shot, you can match to pretty much anything. The people are this small on a big screen, this tall, and their mouths are like 2 pixels moving around. You can't tell if that is perfectly in sync or not with the sound. And even if the actors are not delivering the lines exactly in the wide as they do the tights, then it's still too wide to tell. So basically, where I'm going with this is that you have to know what is in this frame. Because if it is a wide shot, you want to maybe put down plants. You might want to have the lav there, especially if you're not going to be able to get a boom in there close. Some wide shots, the headroom is low. And that's great when that happens. Or it could be one of those things where you can throw an invisible boom out there. Whatever the case is, you have to know that shot. So that way you can report back to the sound utility and the sound mixer as to what's going on in the scene and how you should cover it, because the boom operator is basically responsible for microphone placement. And if that is the case, another word for a boom operator is a microphone placement technician. So if a microphone placement technician is out there on set putting a plant microphone down, there's going to be a reason, and that most likely is because they can't get a boom out there close enough. Some mixers are going to say, don't worry about that. I know we're going to get in coverage. Or I'll just play it on the lav, no worries. It's all the mixer's preference and how they choose to do the scene. But the big thing that it boils down to is, how is the scene being covered? If it is a wide shot, then you punch in for tights. Hopefully you can shut down all the tight coverage and just do the wide camera by itself. But not all shows go for that. It could be a time-related thing. It could be that they're just like, no, we're just not a sound-friendly show. And I've been on both of those ends. And it's not very nice for the sound department, because then you have to rely on plants or lavs or whatever else. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that on a wide shot, they're dialing in the scene anyway. The scene is going to live in the close-ups unless it happens to be a rare exception. It used to be different. It used to be that films would just play the entire scene in a wide shot, and that's fine. You know, on the old shows, especially big cast count shows like Gilligan's Island, they used to do like one big wide shot for everything, and they do a wide shot with maybe 4 people, and then another wide shot on this side with 3 people, and you know, you would be sitting up there with a big 816 trying to nail everybody with your microphones, or even a wider microphone, a longer microphone. Not a longer, I should say. I mean, there's not much longer than an 816, but definitely something that could reach off of a Fisher boom or a preambulator boom. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked yet again. But the boom operator needs to know what's in the shot. Now, if that shot means the camera has to start here and pushes into a tight, you have to know that. Because as the camera moves around, you have to know what that shot entails. The boom operator's main responsibility here is to know the shot. You have to know what is in the camera's lens, what is going to be pointed at. If the camera operator starts down here on the table, comes up from fruit, 3 takes in a row, and then you have the boom out there, and suddenly they say your boom's in the shot, and you're like, how is that? And you go up a little bit, then you're still in the shot. You look down there and you realize that they've changed the shot and they're now looking up. Let me put it this way. The worst thing in the world for you to see as a boom operator is when you see the DP walking around with a walkie, and you see the A and B camera operators, all the operators are wearing surveillance headsets. You're like, oh no. Oh, no. The DP is going to be barking orders in the middle of the scene saying, you need to widen out 10 mils. Middle take 5. They widen out 10 mils, and suddenly the boom's in the shot, and then they're going to say, well, we had a busted take because the boom got in. Well, what was different? Nothing. You have to know when the shot changes as well. How do you do that, though? If you know the wide shot is the A camera, always be facing the A camera. So if the camera is over here and I'm booming, I'm going to have my microphone over my head or right here in front of me or whatever I'm doing, however I'm doing it. But I'm facing that camera. That wide shot right there is going to be constantly in front of me. I'm still looking this way at my actors that I'm cueing the mic over and this kind of thing, but I'm facing the camera at all times. If I turn my back to the camera, I don't know if that camera is moving. I don't know if the camera suddenly decides to come to boom up. I don't know if the camera suddenly decides it's going to hold more headroom or pan over to the left, and I suddenly move in there to get the same shot I've done every single time, and I'm suddenly in the shot. Face the wide camera. If you are a boom operator that is not able to hold the boom suspended with your left arm out in the front, or your right arm out in the front, both hands need, then you need to actually train yourself to do that. You have to be able to switch sides. As a general rule, I say you always want to face the camera, the wide camera. If you have a second boom out there and that boom operator is fairly green, you may want to position yourself where you're always facing the A camera and that boom operator. If you can. I mean, if you can't, then you can't. But in that circumstance, if you have a green boom operator, I would actually prefer to watch the camera and tell that boom operator, I'll be watching the camera, you be watching my movements. If suddenly you see me go up, you might need to match my height. Just go up at the same amount that I do. And I will be conscious of that. And if there's a weird situation, or I might give them instructions if that doesn't apply. Whatever the case may be, I need to tell the second boom operator what's going on. And that is only going to happen if I know what that camera is and how what's in that viewfinder. Now, keep in mind also from my talk on focal length, if I don't know how wide the camera is, I can't know what's in the frame either. It could be that you're on a wide shot. It could be that you're on a tight shot. And if you start the shot tight and then it's going to be pulling out wide, you start the scene tight and then start pulling out wide, you're getting your coverage first. And at that point, you don't want to have your boom 5 feet over the talent's head at the beginning of the scene. But at the same time, if this and you want to watch rehearsals to learn this stuff, if the shot is wide and the dolly pushes in to a nice tight shot before the dialogue even starts, the camera's all the way in, great, no problem. That's awesome. It's a boomable height. Now, if that camera happens to move in and suddenly reveals your antennas in the back, or it happens to reveal your video cable going through the back of the shot or something, you have to move it. Don't wait for camera to spot it, because they're not going to spot it until they say roll sound or last looks, when it is the most annoying time in the world to have to fix it. They're not going to notice it until whose cable is that back there? You say sound? Okay, we're waiting on sound now. Be responsible for yourself and your own gear. Side note. But as a boom operator, when you know what the frame is, you are responsible for making sure your sound world stays out of it as well. It is the responsibility of the A camera operator to know what is in the shot for all cameras and to help them design them. If the DP is not around, they can answer questions and stuff. The A camera operator also, if they're the wide camera shot, for example, or whoever the wide camera shot really is, I should say, is going to look at that frame and say, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, we have a reflection, we have this, we have to address this, the back windows have to be, cleaned. If you know that's in the shot and your antennas are back there, or the sound mixer is peeking through a window back there, that has to move. You don't want them to call you out on this at some time when it's convenient for them. They're not thinking sound until the last possible minute. They kind of expect you to be on top of that. So as a boom operator, you have to know what's in that shot, and then you can address it. If you have a plant microphone down, what I always do as a general practice is I will go to the operator and I'll say, hey, do you have a second? And or if they're busy, I'll say, when you have a second, I just want to show you where my plant mic is. And they'll most likely love you to death for doing such a thing, because you're respecting their frame. And then you could go over and touch the end of the microphone. If the plant microphone is coming up here and you say, right here, do you see this? And they say, yeah, I see it right there. Okay, can it go down a little bit? And you push it down a little bit. It's still in the shot. Okay, got to go down again. It's still in the shot. Okay, right there. Okay, now it's out. That microphone is now at the very edge of frame. Any higher, it's going to be in the shot. Now, if you want to work with an operator on this kind of thing, they're going to tell you when that microphone is completely left the shot. But if it gets to the point where it is no longer doing you any good and it's a wide enough shot, one thing you can ask the operator is, does the plant read? If you want to know more about that, check out that video right there. That's a good question to have in your arsenal, though, because if you're trying to get a plant microphone out there, it only does good for you if it passes 2 tests. The picture test and the sound test. If it looks good but it doesn't sound good, it does the sound department no good. If it sounds good, it doesn't look good, camera will make sure it looks good. And they'll keep on adjusting it until it no longer sounds good. Trust me on that one. But if you are if you are putting something out there, address it with the operator. Make sure the operator knows where your microphone is. If you're trying to sneak a camera through the background, snug it to a wall, something where it's going to hopefully be invisible, run it under the edge of carpet, do something. But if it's in the frame, the camera operator needs to be made aware of it. This is a courtesy to them, and it's also going to show that you are on their side. They will trust you more if that's the case. You respect their frame, and they will respect you back. Now, by knowing what's in the frame, it's going to help you over the course of time and learning the production and the feel of how everything goes. It's going to help you figure out how you need to work the sound and the microphones for this show. If your operators are telling you where things are and they're giving you good information, you're hearing from the DP, you're getting good information, and it always is covered the way that they talk about it, then you right now know that you can rely on them for the most part. When you go back to talk to the sound mixer and the sound utility, you say, well, this is what it's going to be like. If they always change things up, you know that obviously you have to be more dynamic than that. That's when you really have to think ahead. You have to go ahead and maybe have a plant ready at all times. You might need to have a second boom standing by for any moment they could be throwing, you could throw them in there. But the main point here that I'm making is by knowing what's in the frame, you can address it correctly as a boom operator. If they bring dolly track to set, and they start to set up a dolly on that, you need to know where the dolly starts and finishes. If it starts here, there's one mark and there's another mark down here. You need to find out where the 1 position is, where the 2 position is, how the camera is going to be moving. Is the camera, if you see one of the zoom guns on there, or you suddenly hear them starting to say start here, and then we're going to push in and widen out, you're like, whoa, push in and widen out. So it's that shark look. It's the Jaws look. You need to be observant of this thing. If they're starting to set up any kind of a zoom gun, it looks like a drill. If it looks like the first AC, the focus puller has a drill in his hand that's connected on a string, or not a string, but a cable string. It's connected on a cable to the camera. You know it's probably adjusting the zoom on the fly. And usually if that first AC doesn't trust himself with doing that and focus on a complex move, they'll have the second AC do that. You'll have yet another person in front of you on set. But you need to pay attention to what that move is. If it's just a dolly on dance floor, you'll see a bunch of little tape marks down on the ground, and you have to know which one is 1, then 2, then 3. And a good question there is to ask your dolly grip, say, what's going on here? Can you show me, or can you tell me where your 1 is? Where does the shot start? Or maybe say, can you walk me through what you do? That might be a better way to put it. And usually I'll also ask the camera operator. I'll say to whoever the A camera operator is, or whoever the camera operator is, it may not be the A that I'm talking to now. I'm going to say to the operator and the dolly group, gentlemen, would you mind showing me your movement here? Show me your moves. Would you walk me through what you're doing here? Give me an idea of what you're doing here. Something along those lines, so that way they know that you want to know what the shot is. On the better productions with the better teams, they'll say, yeah, let's show you. Because they want to keep you out of the shot. And if they show you what it is, then you have absolutely no excuse not to know what it is, unless they're the kind of people that change it on the fly all the time. Now, if you're on set listening and they suddenly change it, your operator may tell you. They may have just expected you to listen and to have caught it, so you got to pay attention. It involves always listening. If the shot is a Steadicam, you have to stay glued to the Steadicam operator to know what they're doing and when they're doing it. Now, most likely, the Steadicam operator is going to be standing there on set without the camera in their hands, and they're going to be standing there just looking at the shots. They may walk it a couple of times, and if they don't, then you can go to the Steadicam operator and say, can you walk me through your movement here? Or do you have an assignment yet? Is one of the questions I'll usually say. I'll say, do you know your movement yet? And they'll say, yeah, let me walk you through it. Great. Knowing where the frame is absolutely critical for a lot of reasons. And hopefully you understand them better now. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Sound Speeds, and be sure to tune into more episodes of Sound Speeds in the future for more sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.